Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming together for this opportunity of fellowship immersed within a beautiful tradition of wisdom. We are in Torah portion Tetzaveh, which is in the book of Exodus, chapter 27, beginning with verse 20. We'll read through the English translation of our Torah portion. I'll share with you a focused study of it, and then we'll open it up for our expanding collective and collaborative conversation about it. If you'd like to go ahead and unmute at this point, we can join together in the recitation of our blessing, giving thanks for this moment. Baruch atah
Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu b'divrei Torah. Thank you, God, for this opportunity to immerse ourselves in words, deeds, and relationships of Torah. I'll share with you the opening verses, and then I'll invite others to have an opportunity to read as well. Once again, we're in the book of Exodus, chapter 27, verse 20. You shall further instruct the Israelites to bring you clear oil of beaten olives for lighting, for kindling lamps regularly. Aaron and his sons shall set them up in the tent of meeting, outside the curtain which is over the ark of the pact, to burn from evening to morning before Adonai. It shall be a due from the Israelites for all time throughout the ages. Would you like to read a little bit at the very start of chapter 28?
Thank you. You shall bring forward your brother Aaron with his sons from among the Israelites to serve me as priests. Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, Ithamar, the sons of Aaron. Make sacred vestments for your brother Aaron for dignity and adornment. Next, you shall instruct all who are skillful, whom I have endowed with the gift of skill, to make Aaron's vestments for consecrating him to serve me as priest. These are the vestments they are to make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a fringed tunic, a headdress, and a sash. They shall make those sacred vestments for your brother Aaron and his sons for priestly service to me. They therefore shall receive the gold, the blue, purple, and crimson yarns and fine linen.
Thank you. And Richard, would you like to read a little bit starting at verse 6?
Thank you, Rabbi. And they shall make the ephod of gold, of blue and purple, scarlet, and fine twisted linen, fine linen, the work of a skillful workman. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces joined to the 2 ends thereof, that it may be joined together. And the skillfully woven band, which is upon it, wherewith to gird it on, shall be like the work thereof, and of the same piece, of gold, of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. And thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, and engrave on them the names of the children of Israel, 6 of their names on the one stone, and the names of the 6 that remain, so on the other stone, according to their birth. With the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones, according to the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be enclosed in settings of gold, and thou shalt put the 2 stones upon the shoulder pieces of the ephod, to be stones of memorial for the children of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon the 2 shoulders for a memorial. And thou shalt make the settings of gold and 2 chains of pure gold, of plaited thread shalt thou make them, of wreathen work, and thou shalt put the wreathen chains on the settings. And thou shalt make a breastplate of judgment, the work of the skilled workman, like the work of the ephod. Thou shalt make it of gold, of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and the twined linen shalt thou make it. 4 square it shall be, double a span shall be the length thereof, and span that breadth thereof.
Thank you so much. Let me invite Kath, if you'd like to read starting at verse 17.
Right, thank you, Rabbi. Set in it mounted stones in 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a row of carnelian, chrysolite, and emerald. The second row, a turquoise, a sapphire, and an amethyst. The third row, a jacinth, an agate, and a crystal. And the fourth row, a beryl, a lapis lazuli, and a jasper. They shall be framed with gold in their mountings. The stones shall correspond in number to the names of the sons of Israel, 12 corresponding to their names. They shall be engraved like seals, each with its name for the 12 tribes. On the breastpiece, make braided chains of corded work in pure gold. Make 2 rings of gold on the breastpiece and fasten the 2 rings at the 2 ends of the breastpiece, attaching the 2 gold cords to the 2 rings at the ends of the breastpiece. Then fasten the 2 ends of the cords to the 2 frames, which you shall attach to the shoulder pieces of the ephod at the front.
Thank you, Kath, so much. And let me invite June. Would you like to read some beginning at verse 26?
Thank you, Rabbi. Make 2 rings of gold and attach them to the 2 ends of the breastpiece at its inner edge, which faces the ephod. And make 2 other rings of gold and fasten them on the front of the ephod, low on the 2 shoulder pieces, close to its seam above the decorated band. The breastpiece shall be held in place by a cord of blue from its rings to the rings of the ephod, so that the breastpiece rests on the decorated band and does not come loose from the ephod. Aaron shall carry the names of the sons of Israel on the breastpiece of decision over his heart when he enters the sanctuary for remembrance before the Lord at all times. Inside the breastpiece of decision, you shall place the Urim and Thummim, so that they are over Aaron's heart when he comes before the Lord. Thus Aaron shall carry the instrument of decision for the Israelites over his heart before the Lord at all times.
Thank you so much, June. Let me invite Mark Thompson, if you'd like to pick up there at verse 31 for a little bit.
Thank you, Rabbi. You shall make the robe of the ephod of pure blue. The opening for the head shall be in the middle of it, and the opening shall have a binding of woven work around about. It shall be like the opening of a coat of mail, so that it does not tear. On its hem, make pomegranates of blue, purple, and crimson yarns all around the hem, with bells of gold between them all around. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate, all around the hem of the robe. Aaron shall wear it while officiating, so that the sound of it is heard when he comes into the sanctuary before Adonai, and when he goes out, that he may not die. You shall make a frontlet of pure gold and engrave on it the seal inscription, Holy to the Lord. Suspend it on a cord of blue, so that it may remain on the headdress. It shall remain on the front of the headdress. It shall be on Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may take away any sin arising from the holy things that the Israelites consecrate. From any of their sacred donations, it shall be on his forehead at all times, to win acceptance for them before Adonai.
Thank you so much, Mark. Joanne, would you like to read a little bit starting at verse 39?
Thank you, Rabbi. You shall make the fringed tunic of fine linen. You shall make the headdress of fine linen. You shall make the sash of embroidered work. And for Aaron's sons also you shall make tunics and make sashes for them, and make turbans for them for dignity and adornment. Put these on your brother Aaron and on his sons as well. Anoint them and ordain them and consecrate them to serve me as priests. You shall also make for them linen breeches to cover their nakedness. They shall extend from the hips to the thighs. They shall be worn by Aaron and his sons when they enter the tent of meeting, or when they approach the altar to officiate in the sanctuary, so they do not incur punishment and die. It shall be a law for all time for him and for his offspring to come.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And Dave Leb, would you like to read a little bit starting at the very beginning of chapter 29?
This is what you shall do to them in consecrating them to serve me as priests. Take a young bull of the herd and 2 rams without blemish. Also, unleavened bread, unleavened cakes with oil mixed in, and unleavened wafers spread with oil. Make these of choice wheat flour. Place these in one basket and present them in the basket along with the bull and the 2 rams. Lead Aaron and his sons up to the entrance of the tent of meeting and wash them with water. Then take the vestments and clothe Aaron with a tunic, the robe of the ephod and the breastplate, and gird them with the decorated band of the ephod. Put the headdress on his head and place the holy diadem upon the headdress. Take the anointing oil and pour it on his head and anoint him. Then bring his sons forward, clothe them with tunics, and wind turbans upon them, and gird both Aaron and his sons with sashes, and so that they shall have priesthood as their right for all time.
Thank you, Dave. And Dan, would you like to read a little bit, picking up right there, right before?
Thank you, Rabbi. You shall then ordain Aaron and his sons. Lead the bull up to the front of the tent of meeting, and let Aaron and his sons lay their hands upon the head of the bull. Slaughter the bull before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and take some of the bull's blood and put it on the horns of the altar with your finger. Then pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Take all the fat that covers the entrails, the protuberance on the liver, and the 2 kidneys with the fat on them, and turn them into smoke upon the altar. The rest of the flesh of the bull, its hide and its dung, shall be put to the fire outside the camp. It is a sin offering.
Thank you, Dan. Let me invite Robin, if you'd like to read starting at verse 15.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. Next, take the 1 ram and let Aaron and his sons lay their hands upon the ram's head. Slaughter the ram and take its blood and dash it against all sides of the altar. Cut up the ram into sections, wash its entrails and legs, and put them with its quarters and its head. Turn all of the ram into smoke upon the altar. It is a burnt offering to Adonai, a pleasing odor, an offering by fire to Adonai. Then take the other ram and let Aaron and his sons lay their hands upon the ram's head. Slaughter the ram and take some of its blood and put it on the ridge of Aaron's right ear and on the ridges of his sons' right ears and on the thumbs of their right hands and on the big toes of their right feet. And dash the rest of the blood against every side of the altar round about. Take some of the blood that is on the altar and some of the anointing oil and sprinkle upon Aaron and his vestments, and also upon his sons and his sons' vestments. Thus shall he and his vestments be holy, as well as his sons and his sons' vestments.
Thank you, thank you, Robin. And Jim, would you like to read beginning at verse 22?
Thank you, Rabbi. You shall take from the ram the fat parts, the broad tail, the fat that covers the entrails, the protuberance on the liver, the 2 kidneys with the fat on them, and the right thigh, for this is a ram ordination. Add 1 flat loaf of bread, 1 cake of oil bread, and 1 wafer from the basket of unleavened bread that is before Adonai. Please place all these on the palms of Aaron and his sons and offer them as an elevation offering before Adonai. Take them from their hands and turn them into smoke upon the altar with the burnt offering as a pleasing odor before Adonai. It is an offering by fire to Adonai.
Thank you, Jim. Let me invite Robert, if you'd like to read a little bit, starting at verse 26.
Yes, thank you. And thou shalt take the breast of the ram of Aaron's consecration and wave it for a wave offering before the Lord, and it shall be thy part. And thou shalt sanctify the breast of the wave offering and the shoulder of the heave offering, which is waved and which is heaved up, of the ram of the consecration, even of that which is for Aaron, and of that which is for his sons. And it shall be Aaron's and his sons by a statute forever from the children of Israel, for it is an heave offering, and it shall be an heave offering from the children of Israel of the sacrifice of their peace offerings, even their heave offering unto the Lord. And the holy garments of Aaron shall be his sons after him, to be anointed therein, and to be consecrated in them. And that son that is priest in his stead shall put them on 7 days when he cometh into the tabernacle of the congregation to minister in the holy place. And thou shalt take the ram of the consecration and seethe his flesh in the holy place, and seethe his flesh, the holy place. And Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram and the bread that is in the basket by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And they shall eat those things wherewith the atonement was made, to consecrate and to sanctify them. But a stranger shall not eat thereof, because they are holy. And if aught of the flesh of the consecrations or of the bread remain unto the morning, thou shalt burn the remainder with fire. It shall not be eaten, because it is holy.
Thank you so much, Robert. Let me invite Martin, if you'd like to read, starting at verse 35.
Did you say Marco?
Martin.
Oh, my.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thus you shall do to Aaron and his sons, just as I have commanded you. You shall ordain them through 7 days, and each day you shall prepare a bull as a sin offering for expiation. You shall purge the altar by performing purification upon it, and you shall anoint it to consecrate it. 7 days you shall perform purification for the altar to consecrate it, and the altar shall become most holy. Whatever touches the altar shall become consecrated. Now this is what you shall offer upon the altar: 2 yearling lambs each day regularly. You shall offer the one lamb in the morning, and you shall offer the other lamb at twilight. There shall be a 1/10 of a measure of choice flour with 1/4 of a hin of beaten oil mixed in, and a libation of 1/4 hin of wine for one lamb. And you shall offer the other lamb at twilight, repeating with it the meal offering of the morning with its libation, an offering by fire for a pleasing odor to the Lord, a regular burnt offering throughout the generations, at the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord.
Thank you, Martin. And let me invite Jay. Would you like to read a little bit, beginning there in the middle of verse 42? For there I will meet with you.
Thank you, Rabbi. For there I will meet with you, and there I will speak with you, and there I will meet with the Israelites, and it shall be sanctified by my presence. I will sanctify the tent of meeting and the altar, and I will consecrate Aaron and his sons to serve me as priests. I will abide among the Israelites, and I will be their God, and they shall know that I, the Lord, am their God, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, that I might abide among them. I, Adonai, their God.
Thank you so much, Jade. And let me invite Margot. Would you like to read a few verses at the very start of chapter 30?
Thank you. You shall make an altar for burning incense. Make it of acacia wood. It shall be a cubit long and a cubit wide. It shall be square and 2 cubits high. Its horns of one piece with it. Overlay it with pure gold. Its top, its sides, round and about, and the horns, and make a gold molding for a roundabout, and make 2 gold rings for it under the molding. Make them on the 2 side walls on opposite sides. They shall serve as holders for poles on which to carry it. Make the poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold.
Margot, thank
Place
you.
in front of
Margot,
the
thank you
curtain.
so much. Let me invite Justin to read a little bit there at verse 6. Thank you, Margot.
Thank you, Rabbi. And you shall place in front of it the dividing curtain, which is upon the ark of testimony, in front of the ark cover, which is upon the testimony, where I will arrange to meet with you. Aaron shall make incense of spices go up in smoke upon it. Every morning when he sets the lamps in order, he shall make it go up in smoke. When Aaron kindles the lights in the afternoon, he shall make it go up in smoke, continual incense before the Lord for your generations. You shall offer up to it no alien incense, burnt offering, or meal offering, and you shall pour no libation upon it. But Aaron shall make atonement upon its horns once a year, with the blood of the sin offering of the atonements. Once a year he shall effect atonement upon it for your generations. It is a holy of holies to the Lord.
Thank you so much, Justin. Thank you so much, everyone. That is our entire Torah portion for the week. If you have a copy of the study guide, I invite you to take it out at this point. In our Torah portion Tetzaveh, we are continuing a project that was introduced to us last week, which is the construction of a Mishkan, some kind of building, some kind of project that would bring the presence of God into the community of the Israelites. And here this week, we introduce another element to it, which is the clothing, the garments that the priest will wear as the individual responsible for leading the service that will help to induce the presence of God into the community of the Israelites. So we're going to focus on this notion about these garments that the priest is to wear, and we'll also focus on some aspects that are absent from this week's Torah portion, significantly absent. And we're also going to focus on this notion about what is actually the purpose of these garments and what are they in fact inducing. So if you look on the study sheet, I'd like to actually begin with the artwork that I'm presenting here. And it's a piece by a French-Israeli artist, Joseph Zrichen, who was born in Morocco and moved to France when he was about 12 years old. And he's also a very active member of the Jewish community in France, and also serves in Israel as a representative of the French community in Israel. So he's a doctor, and he's also a painter. And in fact, he described himself, as I indicate here in the first contribution here on the study sheet, he described himself as one man with 2 passions, a doctor of the body and a painter of the soul. And the piece of his that I've presented here is actually a triptych. That is, it is a panel divided into 3 pieces, and it's called Le Voyage Extraordinaire. And Les Voyages Extraordinaires is the name of a series of works by the French novelist Jules Verne. And he wrote a series of novels, all of which are geographical novels. That is, while they take place in the present, he takes us in these novels to some really extraordinary, amazing places that most of us in our daily life don't get to, such as you think of the book 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or From Earth to the Moon, 80 Days Around the World. These are all extraordinary visits that he takes us on while remaining very, very much in the present. He wrote these novels between 1863 and 1905, and there are a total of 54 of them. So to me, it's just too intriguing not to overlook the fact that he wrote 54 of these, which he envisioned as a way to describe not only Earth, but the entire universe, as indicated by the fact that, at least in one of his novels, he takes us away from Earth onto the moon. So his attempt was to introduce us to the vast breadth of all human possibilities, and perhaps beyond, as he was enthralled by science, and as he was enthralled by the beauty of the imagination. So the fact that there are 54 is just too tempting not to pass up the fact that how many Torah portions are there? 54. So I don't know if Jules Verne was aware of that, but it's just so enticing to think that this body of work that he dedicated himself to over a period of some 40 years was to try and present to us a full sense of the expanse of the universe, take us on journeys that would have us experience the expanse of the universe. And then it's the same number of works as the Torah itself is divided into, which I think also is seeking to do the same thing. You have us go on a journey experiencing the expanse of the universe, to go from where we are now to other worlds, even as we remain in the present moment, and to experience the infinitude that is there, and to return transformed as a result. So here's what he wrote about his enterprise here, known as Les Voyages Extraordinaires. It is my intention to complete, before my working days are done, a series which shall conclude in story form my whole survey of the world's surface and the heavens. And one of his more contemporary commentator on the works of Jules Verne and Les Voyages Extraordinaires wrote, "In extraordinary voyages, the passage from reality to imagination and back is encouraged by the emergence of a marvelous that we can call geographical." So in the one sense, yes, Jules Verne was very much fascinated by geography, but here, as Dupuy is indicating, the way he has presented, the way Jules Verne has presented these stories, they are so marvelous that the geography itself is meant to convey a sense of the awe and the amazing. Okay. So here's what our artist Joseph Zrihan has done in terms of paying homage to Jules Verne's work, Les Voyages Extraordinaires. It's a triptych. And one of the things that's significant about a triptych is that it consists of 3 separate elements that complement each other. And oftentimes, traditionally, a triptych can be so physically constructed that you can fold the pieces on top of one another so that they actually constitute a single piece, which then can be unfolded, and you can see, that single piece consists of 3 separate pieces. My experience and my study, of course, has to do with Judaism, but it is so tempting to be able to begin to explore beyond the faith tradition that I know, to see where and how a triptych can be used in other faith traditions as well. The triptych actually became a form that was very popular in medieval times, and it was often a Christian religious format that was used. And it's just evident to me, although I'm no expert in this matter, that the triptych is also a way to begin to explore the Christian notion of the Trinity, of three aspects of what we call God: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. You fold them together, they are actually one, but you unfold them and they have these three dimensions. So we're going to see a little bit more about how that is played out, not only in Zrichen's work, but also how this plays out in our Torah portion as well. And that's because the number 3 is also very significant within the Jewish tradition. And here in number 4, I have verses from the story of creation. Let the water below the sky be gathered into one area, that the dry land may appear, and let the earth sprout vegetation. So that is describing the 3rd day of creation. If you remember, the first day is light. The second day, there are waters above and waters below. And now on the 3rd day, the waters below are now being separated out so that there's now water and there is land. And in Jewish tradition, this 3rd day then becomes really a critical notion of what it means to be alive, because what's happening in the 3rd day is that water and land are being separated, and the vegetable kingdom is also simultaneously being created on the 3rd day. And the vegetable kingdom is allowed to exist because water and land have been separated, so that the water kingdom is able to be nourished by some kind of relationship between water and land. And we're going to explore a little bit more about this notion about the significance of the 3rd day if we look at what's happening in our Torah portion as well. Because surely one of the key aspects of this week's Torah portion has to do with these vestments that are being made for the high priest. And here is from our Torah portion, number 5. Make holy vestments for your brother Aaron, for dignity, kavod, and beauty, tiferet. So the word tiferet comes from the Hebrew verb for ar, which means to beautify. And in Kabbalah, tiferet is known as the 3rd manifestation of God's emanations. And it serves as a kind of mediation between that of what's called chesed, which is an outflowing of, it means compassion, and another aspect known as givurah, which means a kind of a strength, a restraint, a severity. And tiferet mediates between these two in a critical way. So to have a kind of a merging of the benevolent flow of compassion, mediating between that and the restrictive severity of givurah. And these two, to have this mediation between these two tendencies is really what creates a sense of harmony. So tiferet connotes a sense of not only beauty, but in Kabbalah, a sense of harmony, mediating between the benevolence of compassion and the restrictive severity of givurah. So here's what's this notion here then of tiferet, of one of the aspects of the reason for these garments is then to serve as a mediating, if you will, energy between the necessity of having some level of restraint and then some level of outflow of compassion. The other interesting word here that's used for describing the garments, that of kavod, this is a fascinating word. The word kavod really comes from the Hebrew verb, which means to make heavy. And we saw that very recently in our story when we were in Egypt. And it is one of the things that Pharaoh did to his own heart. He made his own heart heavy. And so here, that same notion of heaviness is now being repurposed, if you will, is being repurposed for some life-giving and liberating energy, which is to be conveyed to the presence of Aaron, who's now the one who walks point for the Israelite community to induce the presence of God. And now, if you turn over, I'd like to share with you this notion about what is happening here also, is that one of the other garments that is to be made for the high priest is a breastplate of judgments, and the stones shall correspond to the names of the 12 tribes. So the high priest is to not only wear garments that separate him from the rest of the Israelites, and that in a sense protect him from this encounter with this powerful force that we call the source of all life, that we call God. He is also wearing on his chest a breastplate with a stone, and each stone represents one of the 12 tribes. So he's carrying with him a reminder of that, of whom he is serving. He is representing the 12 tribes, and they are to convey a sense of his love for these 12 tribes. So he's never to lose consciousness of the purpose for which he's doing this. And the purpose for which he's doing this is love for the people of Israel. So this notion then about what we're encountering is that this is a journey that the high priest is going on, leaving behind the mundanity of daily life, entering into the Holy of Holies, where he makes contact with and induces the presence of that which goes beyond the temporal, that which goes beyond the immediate, that which goes beyond our sense of space and time.
You're talking to me.
Excuse me, if you could just go on mute, that would be helpful. Thank you so much. And induces the presence of eternity and infinity into the presence of daily life. So this is a journey, much like the journey that I think that Jules Verne, through his novels, was seeking to take us on, which is to take us to different dimensions that we might not otherwise see while remaining rooted in the present. It is not meant to take us to a different time. It is meant to help us bridge the dimensions between this world and another world, and to bring us back. And I want to suggest that that's in a sense what's happening here in this Torah portion, is that it's describing someone who's going to take us on a journey that's going to cross the barriers of dimensions while remaining rooted in the present. The other interesting aspect of this week's Torah portion is that it is the only Torah portion between the beginning of Exodus and the end of Deuteronomy that does not mention the name of Moses. Moses is not once mentioned in this week's Torah portion. And our reading of this week's Torah portion coincides with, this is in the Jewish calendar, this is the 9th of Adar. And according to tradition, it was on the 7th day of Adar that Moses was born and the day on which he died. So the significance of having this is the only Torah portion in which he's not mentioned, and coinciding with the date of his birth and the day of his death, also reveals another aspect of the Torah portion that takes us to where we're heading in terms of our holiday celebrations. This Torah portion focuses on costumes, on engarbing ourselves in things that we wouldn't normally be wearing if we were the high priest. we're approaching the holiday of Purim, in which we also put on garments that we wouldn't normally be wearing, that transform us somehow from our daily mundane life and help take us to some other dimension of ourselves, if you will. And the story of Purim, which we read about in the book of Esther, is significant because there too, the primary character that we're used to reading, whose name we're used to reading in all of our stories, is also absent, just as Moses' name is absent in this week's Torah portion. And that's the name of God. God is never mentioned in the story of the Purim, the book of Esther. So pulling all of this together, there's something about what we're reading, what you and I have just read this evening, which combines a journey to some dimension beyond what we normally experience, in which the one who's leading us there, Moses, who's the main character of these novels, his name is no longer mentioned. Just as in the book of Esther, the one who's been our protector, the one who's been our guide along the way, that character's name is never mentioned. Somehow there's something significant about that, about engarbing oneself, about putting on some kind of dressing that helps us remove ourselves from our normal self to experience something quite fantastic, which may be, after all, what Jules Verne had in mind when he wrote Extraordinary Voyages. With that, I'd love to see and hear from you what you experience as we're reading this week's Torah portion. Let's begin to expand our encounter with it. If you'd like to raise your hand, I'd love to call upon you. Martin, please share with us.
I really enjoyed your commentary, and this Parsha and your discussion has helped me appreciate an aspect of modern Judaism that I don't think I fully appreciated. We've lost the temple, and we no longer have the high priest. And so instead, in our synagogues, we have the Torah, and it has a breastplate, and it has bells on it, and it has the frills, etc. And that what we've done, and I didn't fully appreciate this, is that we have made the Torah a stand-in for the high priest, or maybe supersedes the high priest, because it's the essence of Judaism. And I think that is done to help us to transform or to travel to a holy, sacred place.
Thank you, Martin. That's so beautiful. I love not only that you brought that in, the way you said it is so beautiful. That notion about traveling. The high priest who entered into this dimension on behalf of us all and helped evoke that into our presence is then, as you put it, replaced by the Torah scroll, which indeed has a breastplate. It will also often have on it pomegranates and bells. We'll have a crown on it, the way the high priest wore a turban. Sometimes it'll have a sash around the middle. That is now the one who takes us on this journey. So thank you so much for introducing all that. Let me call upon Dave, Robert, Catherine, and then Richard. Yes, Dave, please go ahead.
Was Jules Verne Jewish?
No, I don't believe so.
I don't think so either. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then Robert, and then Catherine.
Yes, thank you again for a lovely evening. So I want to go back to the scripture and use that as a background, then tie that concept and some other concepts to a triptych, and then tie some Baha'i writings to it. You mentioned Christianity, Judaism, and so it'll be sweet. There'll be three, like the triptych, okay? So bear with me. But I was very inspired by this. Starting at 45, chapter 29, and I will dwell among the children of Israel and will be their God. And they shall know that I am the Lord their God, that brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, that I may dwell among them. I am the Lord their God. And so I'm going to use that last part. So if you can imagine a triptych of thought, the first one is that they're slaves in Egypt. They don't have freedom. They haven't found their relationship with their creator. The second one of the triptych is the journey out of Egypt. And they're learning, they're struggling, they're succeeding, they have their challenges. But then the third part on the right of the triptych is paradise, the Holy Land, the Promised Land. So when I use that and parallel it with the spiritual concept, the beginning of the triptych is that we're slaves to self, always. That journey of humanity is always trying to get out of being a slave to self, serving our lower nature instead of our higher nature. And then in the middle, we have the journey of the soul, sincere journey of the soul leading to personal transformation, spiritual transformation. That's the journey. That's endless. It never ends. Nobody, we arrive at different destinations, but we never achieve ultimate perfection. And then on the right hand for the Promised Land, and I'm going to quote Baha'u'llah because I think it just fits so well. O son of justice, whither can a lover go but to the land of his beloved? And what seeker findeth rest away from his heart's desire? To the true lover, reunion is life, and separation is death. His breast is void of patience, and his heart hath no peace. A myriad lives he would forsake to hasten to the abode of his beloved. And that right hand of the triptych then is the Promised Land, where we recognize that we're spiritual beings and we're willing to sacrifice our lower nature and not be a slave to our animal nature. So that's it, inspired by the verses 45 and 46. I know it's lengthy, but that's my take on the triptych.
Thank you so much. Robert, thank you so much, and beautiful to share with us the beautiful readings of the notion about the beloved, and the notion that also as what you're indicating is that, and this is not a one-time journey. This is a journey that we go through every day, constantly, of seeking to leave behind that which wants to merely oppress us, deny us, be our darker self, and to give nourishment to that which is full of life and love and compassion. So thank you so much for introducing all that material. Beautiful. Let me call upon Catherine, then Richard, and then Joanne. Please, Catherine.
Okay, this isn't nearly so eloquent, but looking at the painting, I think we can read it microscopically and cosmically at the same time.
Beautiful.
So, and that is a way of thinking beyond while being in the present.
So
that was wonderful.
That was absolutely beautiful. And I want you to say a little bit more about reading it both microscopically and telescopically. Just share a little bit more about that.
Well, when you think about voyages, there can be voyages into space and there can be voyages into the infinitely small detail. And they're equally significant, it seems to me.
The notion that a journey can be one of shrinking oneself to explore the wonders that exist perhaps within oneself,
yeah,
and then also leaving behind the gravity of the earth to explore something beyond gravity. I love those notions. Thank you so much.
All right.
and what you're indicating is that the images themselves tend towards that. You can see them either as some kind of objects in space that are floating in space, or you can view them as things that you can only see with a microscope. So beautiful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Let me call upon Richard and then Joanne.
Oh, just really briefly, but I had written down when you said there's no God here. I mean, there's no Moses here. And I wrote down no Moses in Tetzaveh, and underneath that I wrote no God in Esther. And then you said there's no God in Esther. We've talked about that before. And my thought about the journey is that there's some journey going on in time, this supposed history or this metaphor, our notion of where the Jews came from and so forth in time. But there's something that is another journey which has been alluded to, which is a journey that's going to take us out of time. And I see Moses out there. And he's always out there from beginning because there's no beginning. It's just there, whatever Moses depicts in us. And likewise, the other side of Moses or God is the Shekinah. And she was at our rescue. Esther was at our rescue. And they are what we become when we're wholly integrated with this lessons, after we've gotten these lessons in time and been able to put ourselves together.
Richard, so this is what you got me to think about as you're talking, which is that although his name is not mentioned, the role that he's playing here is the role of dresser. He is asked to dress his brother Aaron, to bestow upon him the garments that will give him the role to not only induce the presence of God into the presence of Israel, but also to bring about this constant daily revival of the Israelite people. So Moses serves as the role of dresser. And then if I think, well, God is not mentioned in the book of Esther, but Esther is now dressed in royalty. She has been dressed in royalty, and the role that she plays is not only to find her own power and sovereignty, but to act in a way that unleashes the power of the Jewish people to claim their own place in the world. So thank you for bringing all that to my attention. Let me call upon Joanne and then Anna. Yes, Joanne.
Well, when we were reading it, I thought I need to see a picture. I noticed that Dave has a picture behind him. And then I have my little midrush says that it has a picture. Wait, I don't know.
Yes.
There. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to show you guys the picture because I thought it was just nice to see it actually in a drawing. And so I'll move out of the way so you guys can see that. And Dave, thank you for your picture.
Dave, thank you for the picture. Joanne, thank you for reminding us of how important it is helpful it is to see an image. And it's just so beautiful that you just kind of took yourself out of the picture for a moment. Yeah. So that we can see that image and have a stronger sense, which is what's happening in our Torah portion, right? Moses is taking himself, in a sense, out of the picture so we don't focus on him so much, we could focus on the power that's coming into the present. So let me call upon Anna, then Kat.
It has occurred to me at the very beginning of this portion that we're talking about light, a ner tamid. And a light is or, the Hebrew word or, and also a word in Hebrew that we say or, but it's spelled slightly different, is the word for skins. So in the Garden of Eden, where there was sun and water, well, sun, water, earth, air, human beings were clothed by God with skins, or we were told to wear skins, right? And in this portion, we're talking about and we're talking about wearing things. And this time we're talking about wearing clothing. And the breastplate, we have backbones, but our front sides are really soft and weak. We're not like turtles. We don't have protection in the front. We're very vulnerable from being hurt in the front. And so I think it's really significant that there is a breastplate that's a protective thing. And it has all of the names of the people, all of the tribes, everyone's represented there. So the wearer of the breastplate is representing and holding those people, but also by the same token, all the people there are protecting and holding the wearer. It's a reciprocity of protection. And I think that's what we get to when you come to the book of Esther. We're taking care of each other. We've come through the cycle of the year of the holidays to where we don't have to actually mention God. We say Hamelech, the king, but we're taking care of each other.
Thank you.
And the clothing of light. When you mentioned the three, the water below the sky should be gathered in one area, and the dry land shall appear, and the earth shall sprout vegetation. You have earth and you have, air and water, but you did not put in fire. And that's the missing piece, is the fire, the light. God's light originally clothed us. Moses clothed his priests, and we clothe and protect each other.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. That beautiful, beautiful, beautiful put all together. And Kath, would you share with us?
I actually just had a question, and the question was in 28:35 and in 28:43, there are two mentions of just protecting them so that they will not die.
Mm.
And I didn't know, that was a little confusing to me. I didn't know if this was protection from the people or the element. It seemed like it was sort of floating in there without.
I think the notion there is that Aaron, as the high priest, is going to be going into this power plant known as the Holy of Holies, and therefore needs some kind of protection to help him survive that encounter. So even when the temple was built, there was the custom of tying a rope around the waist of the high priest before he would go into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, because encountering that awesome concentrated power of the source of the universe is dangerous. And so he might have some kind of near fatal encounter as a result of it. And so the assistants would be able to pull him back out with a rope. So that's I think just conveying that notion that Aaron is there to is there to encounter the concentrated power of the source of all life in the universe, and he needs to be appropriately engarbed as a source of protection.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. To bring this back together, I want to go back to our painting, go back to the fact that it is honoring a work by Jules Verne, The Extraordinary Voyages, a series of 54 novels meant to take us while we are still in present time across dimensions, so that we might see how expansive is our world, and in the hopes that it would transform us from our normal sense of the limitations of the world to come back from these journeys with an awareness of how truly marvelous and infinite is the universe in which we dwell. And I think that for Jules Verne, for our artist, Joseph Zrichan as well, and for our Torah, the notion is that those dimensions are, as Catherine beautifully put it, can be encountered not only outside of ourselves, but can be encountered within ourselves as well. And that, I think, is really the message behind Purim, the holiday that we're about to celebrate, which is that we carry that power of sovereignty within us. It is not merely a power that exists outside of us, and that the challenge is always upon us to actualize that great sovereign power that we've been blessed with for goodness of all of creation. I want to thank each and every one of you for contributing to this marvelous journey that we're all on. I look forward to our next leg of our journey. I look forward to being with you once again. God bless you all and be well. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.